And good afternoon. Welcome to Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. My next guest, Rachel Murdoch and Kelly Ham from Missouri First Steps. You asked yourself, what is Missouri First Steps? That's exactly what Rachel Murdoch and Kelly Ham are going to explain to us today. Kelly Ham is the director of Missouri First Steps program in the Southeast Missouri region. Kelly, may I call you Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Kelly, welcome to the booth.
Thank you.
And Rachel Murdoch is also with Missouri First Steps, and she is a service coordinator. Rachel, may I call you Rachel?
You may.
Rachel, welcome to the booth.
Thank you.
Kelly, I'm going to ask you this question as the director. Explain to the listeners a little bit about what is the Missouri First Steps program.
So Missouri First Steps is the state of Missouri's early intervention program for children birth to 3 who have developmental delays or special needs. So what we do is we go into the home and provide services to children and families to help them increase their family's capacity to care for their child and for their child to function to the best of their ability in their natural environment, in their home, and in their community.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director of Missouri First Steps program for Southeast Missouri region. Kelly, you're originally from Jackson. Tell the listeners a little bit about Kelly Ham.
So I was born and raised in Cape Girardeau County. I went to school at Southeast Missouri State University, where I got my bachelor's in child development. And I've been working with First Steps for the last 18 years. Started out as a service coordinator with the program, transitioned to a lead service coordinator, and I've been the director for about the last 15 years. And
I'm going to give you a shout out. You know, I'm also a graduate of Southeast Missouri State University. That's where all the elite professionals in Southeast Missouri come from. So I know that Southeast is near and dear to our heart. Prior to the Missouri First Step program, what did you do before Missouri First Steps?
I worked in child care programs. I was a child care teacher with Southeast Missouri State University's early childhood program in Cape Girardeau and also in Sikeston. I left my position in Sikeston to start my career with First Steps, and yeah, I've been here ever since. And
I can tell from your just the overall look, is Missouri First Steps a program that's very near and dear to your heart?
Very much so. Like I said, I've been here for 18 years and never once thought about leaving. I get to see daily the amount of success our kids have in our program, and then being in the community, getting to see those children grow up and reach amazing things.
And again, we're also with Rachel Murdoch, who's a service coordinator for Missouri First Steps. Rachel, welcome to the booth. As I indicated earlier, how are you doing today?
Very well.
It's always good to talk to Rachel. Rachel and I have known each other for a long time. She also, and I know that I say this on all of my broadcasts, is also an alumnus of Holcomb High School.
That's correct.
Where all of the prestigious individuals from Southeast Missouri come from. Isn't that right, Misty? No comment from Misty, who went to Campbell. We're going to keep that between us. Rachel, explain to the listeners a little bit about what does a service coordinator for Missouri First Steps do?
We facilitate a lot of the comings and goings with the kiddos. Once we get a referral, those get sent to me. I make contact with the family, kind of see what their concerns are with their child, set up that initial contact and that first meeting and gather more information, set them up with an evaluation to see if their child qualifies, and after we find out eligibility, I will help facilitate the IFSP, set up outcomes and goals for the child, and get them set up with the therapist that's appropriate for their needs.
And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director for the Southeast Missouri region of Missouri First Steps program, and Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator for the Missouri First Steps program. Rachel, prior to working for Missouri First Steps, tell listeners, what did you do before that?
I taught as a special education teacher at Holcomb for 9 years, working with kids K through 6. I then moved to Kennett Middle School, where I worked for 3 years, working with kiddos 6 through 8.
And did that initial or prior occupation or employment, did that kind of lead you into the area of First Steps? How did you become a service coordinator at First Steps?
I actually saw a Facebook post that Kelly had made. It was shared with me. So I went ahead and went out on a limb and applied, and it seemed like something I could be really good at. First Steps has, it's basically beginning steps of special education in the state of Missouri. We work with kiddos 0 to 3. I have been working with special education kiddos for a 12 years now. So it was kind of a natural progression for me.
And Kelly, I'm going to swing back to you a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about the First Steps program in the state of Missouri. Kind of explain to the listeners, it sounds like an outstanding program. Obviously, kids from 0 to 3 trying to catch early, which I think we've all determined, preschool is very important, things of that nature. 0 to 3. How do you become involved? How do they know that Missouri First Steps is out there? How do they get you involved in their lives?
So referrals come to us in a variety of ways, whether it's through doctors, physicians, parents as teachers, or parent education programs, social service agencies, whether that's Children's Division, Nurses for Newborns, Building Blocks, those types of programs.
There's a lot of ways that it can become
Absolutely.
Available as the sources.
Hospitals, NICUs, we get a lot of referrals from them. I would say our 3 biggest referral sources come from parents themselves, doctors and healthcare providers, and then hospitals.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director, Missouri First Steps Program, Southeast Missouri region, and also Rachel Murdoch, service coordinator for Missouri First Steps. And Kelly, one thing that a lot of parents, and, my daughter just recently had a baby, Walker, he's 2. A lot of people, when you have a child, you're like, well, I think he may be delayed because he's not doing things that other kids are doing, or I think this is the case, or I read something that says he should be doing this. Is it a lot of times parents are worrying about things that they shouldn't, or should they always try to follow up with those? And that's kind of a weird question, but, in my day, my mother just kind of said, he'll grow out of it.
And that's been the way of thinking for a long time. But now we know that catching those things early is the best. The earlier we catch them, the quicker we can address them and provide support to help that child catch up with their development. So if parents ever have concerns, trust your gut, talk to your doctor, reach out to a parent education program through the local school district. They do free screenings. And if they see concerns, those programs will refer to us. Or if you just don't think something's right and you don't know, give us a call. We can come out. We can, like Rachel said, we could do the intake process where we come out, meet with you, explain our program a little bit, make sure that it's a right fit for you. And if we do need to go forth with an evaluation to see if your child has a half-age delay, then that's what we're going to do.
And Rachel, I kind of turn to you now. So once a referral is made, it comes in through a doctor, it could come in through just somebody calling, a parent or something of that nature. You reach out, and what's the first thing that you would do as a service coordinator?
I usually call them and ask them, let them know if the referral has been received. Ask them if they what their concerns are and how much they know about the First Steps program. A lot of families, they hear First Steps and they don't know what we're about. So I help ease their concerns about what we really do and how to pay for the program, where the kid will be serviced. A lot of parents they're working and they can't be there when the services are being implemented, and we let them know that we can go to daycares and just anywhere and meet them on their schedule.
And let's talk a little bit about that. Again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And let's say that you get a referral for my child. You reach out to my child. I may or may not be aware of the referral. Is that correct? Or should I always know that there's been a referral?
Most of the time, the parent will be aware of the referral. Yes.
And so, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with my child. And so you kind of have to get across that initial step sometimes, or is it most of the time people are like, yeah, we thought there might be something going on. We went to our physician, so he said he might be having somebody call. Is that kind of the case?
The majority of our parents, they have some concerns already, and they speak to their pediatrician, and they know that referral will be coming. We do have a few parents who call, and they're like, well, we didn't think that there was anything wrong with our child, but, this daycare program had some concerns.
Okay. And then we get to the point where we're like, well, how are we going to pay for this? That's another concern. Obviously, a lot of people are working paycheck to paycheck. Missouri First Steps, if there is an issue, how do we go about paying for these services from Missouri First Steps?
There's several ways to pay for Missouri First Steps. One of the most common is through Missouri Medicaid. We accept Missouri Medicaid. We also have private pay, and we work on a sliding scale based on income. And
again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director for the Missouri First Step program from Southeast Missouri region, and also Rachel Murdoch for the Missouri First Steps service coordinator. And I guess I really should have asked that question to Kelly. And Kelly, you talked about Missouri First Steps for the Southeast Missouri. What exactly is the Southeast Missouri region for Missouri First Steps?
So Missouri's divided into 10 different regions, and we're considered Region 10. Our region covers 19 counties, which is a pretty big chunk of Southeast Missouri. We go all the way from St. Genevieve County, all the way out to Howell County, and then all the way to Dunklin County. So anything and everything in between there.
And how many employees do you have trying to service those 19 counties?
So we recently had an increase in our service coordinator staff because our numbers were so high. So right now, currently, we have 19 service coordinators servicing the 19 counties that we serve.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Talking to Kelly Ham, the director of the Missouri First Step program for Southeast Missouri, and Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator for Missouri First Steps. And you indicate that you service 19 counties. You now have 19 service coordinators. How many families do you currently serve in Southeast Missouri? Would you have any idea off the top of your head? And I'm really good at trying to stump the guests, and I'm as you're looking through the paperwork there.
Sorry. Right now,
I'm not going to stump Kelly though. She's got the answer.
Right now, we are serving 619 children who are currently eligible for our program. So those are kiddos that have gone through the intake process, gone through the evaluation process, and we've determined that they're eligible and they have what we call an individualized family service plan.
And I'm not real good with math, but if you're doing 619 kids and you have 19 service coordinators, their caseload is going to be about 40 kids, which leads me to Rachel. Rachel, if you have about 40 kids you're servicing as service coordinator, kind of explain to me, how do we go about seeing those kids? How often do we see them? Where do we see them? And things of that nature.
Yeah, so I know on my current caseload I have 44 kiddos in 2 counties, Pemiscot and Dunklin. We meet them anywhere they need to be met. I've met parents at their workplace, at their home, at daycares, at schools, wherever the parent feels comfortable and is able to meet. I check my web application every single day and make sure there's any upcoming meetings. We are mandatory meet with the children every 6 months and just kind of update goals and outcomes and make sure they're doing well and making progress.
Outstanding. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd and KDX AM 1590. Talking to Rachel Murdoch and Kelly Ham from Missouri First Steps program. And Kelly, I'm going to ask you this. You indicated there's 10 regions. When did Missouri First Steps become a program or an initiative in the state of Missouri? Are you aware of that?
Not off the top of my head.
And that's fine. And that's fine. Because I think this is, we've talked a lot about catching things early is very important. Parents as teachers, I think, has a very important role in this, I would think, because, from the time that you're 0 to 4, there's so much delay that can happen or so much progress that can happen, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you really need to get on top of things early on in the process and kind of catch things before they kind of fall through the cracks. Let's say, for instance, I am listening to the show today and I said, you know what, I think my child who's between the ages of 0 and 3 has a delay. How would I get a hold of Missouri First Steps?
So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can call our office locally. That number is 573-243-3222, and that's going to take you directly to our office where you can talk to one of the office staff, give some basic information, and then we will send that out to a service coordinator to have them contact you to set up that initial or that intake meeting. The other way is through our website. That's www.mofirststeps.com. And that's a really easy. All you have to do is click on Make a Referral. You select which category you fall under, whether it's a parent, a doctor, hospital, a social service agency, and you enter all that information online. It comes directly to our office, and we send those out to a service coordinator to reach you within 2 days.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director of the Missouri First Steps program for Southeast Missouri region. There's 10 regions in the state of Missouri. Of course, we're lucky number 10. The best. 10 is always the best. And you indicated you're serving about 619 kids in this region. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there other regions that have larger numbers of kids that's being serviced or less? Or kind of explain the other 9 regions for the Missouri First Steps program.
So the state is divided into, like you said, 10 regions. The state as a whole is serving quite a few children. So the state as a whole, statewide, we are currently serving about I'll get back to that number in a minute. But each region is serving quite a few children. It depends on where you live in the state. So St. Louis is divided into Region 1 and Region 2. They kind of work together, but they service like the St. Louis and St. Louis County areas. So they serve quite a few number of children. They do have quite a few more than we do in Southeast Missouri just because their population is more. Kansas City would be the same way.
Sure. And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Rachel, I'm going to turn to you a little bit. Talking about the Missouri First Steps program, 0 to 3, the Parents as Teachers program, you said you were a longtime educator, first at Holcomb and then at Kennett. How did you first become aware that Missouri First Steps was out there?
I've dealt with Missouri First Steps from time to time in my teaching career. We've had kiddos transition from First Steps to this public school system. So that's when I first heard of First Steps. And then, like I said, I saw Kelly's Facebook post and started learning more about them.
And just thought that was something that you'd be interested in doing, and then branched out from there.
I love the paperwork part of special education process. I know that makes me a little different than some people working in special ed. And I thought, this could be something I'm very interested in, very good at.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director of the Missouri First Steps program for Southeast Missouri region, and Rachel Murdoch, service coordinator. They are currently serving 19 counties in the Southeast Missouri region. If you're interested in their services, you can reach out 573-243-3222 or get on the website www.missourifirststeps.com. You can make I guess you call it your own referral, and kind of see where we're at from there. Kelly, when you first became part of Missouri First Steps, did you see that there was an increase? How do I say this? Has the number of people that you've serviced grown tremendously from the time you first started? And do we have a reason to know why that has occurred?
The number has definitely grown since I first started 18 years ago. I think the reasoning why is because people know more about us. I think we're out in the community more. Our referral sources are more confident in the services that we provide to families. Therefore, they feel more confident in making referrals to us to make sure that those children are going to get and those families are going to get what they need as far as the services and support. So definitely those numbers have increased, and I think it's just a better awareness of what our program is and what we do.
And I guess my question is, what kind of issues with my children could I say that I'm concerned about with Missouri First Steps? Does that make sense? Like, I think that the cognitive skills are delayed, or I think what are some of the things that Missouri First Steps helps us with from 0 to 3?
So there's 3 different ways that children come into our program or qualify for our program. The first is very extremely low birth weight babies. So those are babies that are born that weigh less than 1,500 grams. And with that, they have some sort of accompanying diagnosis, whether it's they were on a ventilator for over 24 hours or some kind of breath support, a resuscitation or a code event, or they have a brain bleed with that. The other way they qualify is through a diagnosed condition that is associated with a developmental delay. So that's where your things like autism diagnoses, your chromosomal abnormalities, sensory impairments like hearing impairment, vision impairment. There's a long list of those different criteria that automatically bring a child into our program. And then the third way is through developmental delay. And that's where we go out and we do an evaluation. We break down each area of development, like you said, communication, social, emotional, cognitive, motor skills, adaptive skills. We look at each of those areas to determine where that child is functioning, and that child has to be functioning at a half-age delay in order to qualify for our program.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking the Missouri First Steps program, Southeast Missouri region. The director is Kelly Ham. I'm also here with Rachel Murdoch, service coordinator from Missouri First Steps. And Rachel, I guess my question is, out of your caseload, I think you indicated you have 44 kiddos. Is there a particular area out of what Kelly just described that you have seen as a majority of the individuals that's the reason why they came under your care?
I would say a lot of my students are speech and language delays. We're seeing a lot of that in the last few years. We also see a lot of kiddos with physical development issues and some cognitive delays.
And has there been a reason for that? Is there some kind of major reason or some kind of like diagnosis? Obviously in Southeast Missouri, I'm going to lay it out there that we're probably the poorest, if not the poorest area in all of Missouri. Our health care is what our health care is. and our educational system is the educational system that we have. Is there some reason that we're looking at? Are we just doing are we just trying to do the best we can to figure out what's going on with the kids and moving forward?
I think we're doing the best we can. I think nationwide we're seeing an uptick in speech and language delays, so I don't think it's necessarily a regional issue. I think it's kind of a worldwide thing. And I think some of that may be an uptick in the use of technology with kids. A lot of kids are getting screen time and not having those interpersonal connections with family members.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And that brings me to an interesting point as we're talking to Kelly Ham and Rachel Murdoch. I can remember eons ago when I had my first child, and the thing was, hey, let's just turn on the Wiggles and let it run for like 8 hours, and then, let them watch Blue's Clues. And then and now I have a son who's fixing to graduate high school, and I don't know what he would do if he didn't have a phone in his hand. So is that some of the things that we're kind of looking at the generation of raising these kids is like, whatever we need to do to pacify them other than us having to deal with them one-on-one?
Well, with technology, there's, you're always wanting to let your kids do the things that the other kids are doing. There's nothing wrong with giving your kids screen time necessarily, but nothing beats those real conversations with your family members and your other siblings and your peer groups.
And I know that, when my son was younger, there were some issues as far as dexterity and things of that nature, because, I know you're going to find this hard to believe. My son is now about 6'6", so he's extremely tall and lanky for his age, and his motor skills were a little delayed. But is it something that we see now if, we do more with blocks, with Lincoln Logs, things of that nature? Does that aid in helping where we're at, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. The more manipulative toys that a child can get their hands on and make those cognitive connections, the better.
And is that something, Kelly, that Missouri First Steps aids with as far as that? Or is there a lot of – and I guess my question is, when I come into – if Rachel comes into my house and says, hey, here's some of the things you need to be doing with your child. Is that correct?
Yeah, so one of our main goals for our providers is to go in and coach families and model to families things that they can do with their child to help increase their – ability to play or ability to eat or whatever their goal for their child is. So if we come in and we notice that child's not playing with blocks or not stacking blocks, we may have a special instructor come in and model some suggestions and some ideas that they can use, things that are already in their home. Maybe they don't have a set of blocks, but maybe they have some tin cans of green beans sitting in the kitchen, and we can help stack those and use those as a way to stack blocks and help with that skill. And
I know that the age range, of course, is 0 to 3, but as we indicated, the 0 to 3 years age is such an important time for the cognitive development of the young child. And, just the dexterity and begin to walk and things of that nature. So I guess it's not really one size fits all, correct?
Correct. Everything that we do is individualized. Our plans are called individualized family service plans. So every plan that we come up with is based off of a family routines interview where we go in, we interview the family, we go through their entire day and figure out what's working great for that child and that family and what they're really struggling with. So that could be anything from mealtime because the child's not able to tell the family what they want to eat, and that always results in a breakdown. Or maybe it's that the child's not sleeping at night and mom and dad are up till 3 a.m. because child's not sleeping. So those are all things that our providers can come in and give support and strategies and activities and help them to meet goals of sleeping through the night or using words to communicate at mealtime.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator, and Kelly Ham, the director for the Missouri First Steps program, Southeast Missouri, serving 19 counties, including Dunklin, Pemiscot, Mississippi, Ripley, Butler, all the counties in Southeast Missouri. If you're interested in their services, you can call 573-243-3222 and get a hold of an admin person there. And you can also get on the website, www.missourifirststeps.com, fill out a referral application, and see where we're at. Rachel, had you always wanted to be a special ed teacher?
Since high school, yeah. Absolutely. I went to classes with some special needs kiddos, and I always enjoyed helping them through their classes, art class, PE, that sort of thing. It always brought me a lot of joy.
And again, we indicated you're from Holcomb, but you've relocated. Is that correct?
I do, yeah. I'm out in Gobbler, Missouri now.
Home of the Bloody Bucket, the B&B Club.
Yeah, I'm like 2 lots over.
Outstanding. I don't know if you know that Elvis Presley played.
I have heard.
He was one of their headliners. I don't know if you heard of Elvis Presley. He was fairly popular one time with the musical world.
Yes.
And you're also big news. It's my understanding that you're actually engaged. Is that correct?
Yeah, recently.
Well, I know that the excitement is coming through the microphones, and I know that Rachel is a very modest person. Tell us a little bit about that.
We've been together about 4 years. Ryan is from Sykeston, Missouri. He's moved down here to be the assistant prosecuting attorney for Dunklin County, and he was the boss of a good friend of mine. She introduced us, and we've been together ever since.
And that's Ryan Dykens, the assistant prosecutor here in Dunklin County. And Ryan has clearly outkicked his coverage with Rachel. So if he hears this, he is definitely way out of his league with Rachel Murdoch. And I want all the listeners to know that. Kelly, going back a little bit to the Missouri First Steps program, you indicated that you did some stuff at South. Was that involving you having kids in a classroom setting?
I did. I was a child care teacher for a long time. Actually, I started working in childcare whenever I graduated high school, and have worked in childcare and working with children and young infants ever since.
And tell me a little bit about that. You know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how do you do that every day, all day? Was it just something that you just kind of gravitated to, or did you just enjoy it? Or
I did. I started out in school. I started out towards elementary education, and I realized really quickly that the younger infants and children were my passion. So I switched my major from elementary education to child development. And yeah, working in the child care center brought me to First Steps. I learned about First Steps and what they did, and thought how amazing that would be to work in a program like that. And been here ever since.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And again, we're on Welcome to Luke with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director, Missouri First Steps program for the Southeast Missouri region, Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator for the Missouri First Steps program. If you're interested in their services, you can call them at 573-243-3222. Get on the website, www.missourifirststeps.com. And Kelly, I'm going to ask you this question. You know, you recently indicated you're up to 19 service coordinators for this area. We're Region 10. We're serving about 619 kiddos. Is that correct? Kids,
Yes.
Things of that nature. Is there a limit or a number of kids that Missouri First Steps can help?
No, there's no limit. If a child qualifies, then we are obligated and want to serve them.
Kind of explain, is Missouri First Steps some way affiliated with a state government activity or something of that nature?
So Missouri First Steps is a state program through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So they are the program that oversees our program. They're the ones that make the rules, and that they are mandated through the federal government through OSEP, Office of Special Education. So it's kind of two-part. Our funding is both state and federal. We get funding from Missouri Medicaid, private insurance, and family cost participation fees that some families pay if they have a fee.
Outstanding. And again, we're on Welcome to Luke with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham and Rachel Murdoch from Missouri First Steps. Kelly, I'm going to ask you this question, and this is just a hypothetical. I'm not going to hold you to it. If there were some things that you could change about the way the process worked for these families, is there something that you think could streamline or assist people getting services from Missouri First Steps that you would think was, hey, and I know y'all probably try a lot of these because I think it sounds like the program is very open to change and things of that nature, but are there some things out there you're saying, you know what, this is kind of the way I would like to try to direct this and see where we're at? In your opinion, and your 18 years of being there.
I think maybe just the referral process in and of itself. We've got 45 days from the day that we receive a referral to determine if a child is eligible for a program or not. And if they are, we have to have that individualized family service plan in place. So I think just working better with agencies, whether it's doctors and getting records to confirm a diagnosis or to confirm their health status. So maybe just working with other agencies and things like that in order to help streamline that process.
So it's my understanding if somebody makes a referral to Missouri First Steps, you have to, within 45 days of that referral, determine whether or not they're eligible, correct?
Correct.
And then you also have to have a plan in place?
That's right.
I don't think I can get a letter sent in 30 days.
Snail mail is hard.
So how do you go about expressing the urgencies? And again, you're dealing with doctors who are making, these are private, they're making money, and they're like, you want me to take time and now make these records and things of that nature. How do you impress on them the importance of getting you this information?
We just had an instance today where we had to send a fax where it said urgent. We really need this diagnosis in order to get this child eligible and to get this child services. So I think just reiterating that, we can't provide services and we can't make this child eligible until we have those records. One thing that has made that a little bit easier is the use of My Chart and families having access to those records pretty easily. So sometimes we can have families pull that up and help us out by sending those records, by having them send us those records if they can get to them easily. But if we don't, sometimes that can be a challenge with doctors or hospitals trying to get those quickly.
And, again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham and Rachel Murdoch from Missouri First Steps. And, in Southeast Missouri, we're currently in what you would call a medical crisis, I would say. A lot of hospitals are closing. A lot of doctors' offices are moving. And a lot of individuals, they don't have, how do I say that? They don't know where to take their children for medical attention. So they may not have the medical records. They may not have the doctors or things of that nature. Some of them may just be at home and not go anywhere until they go to school. So does that kind of leave out those kids until they get into preschool? And at that point, are they kind of aged out of Missouri First Steps?
My hope is not. My hope is that somebody's reaching those kiddos, and hopefully maybe through this interview, these families will be able to find us. But hopefully there's some sort of social service agency that's reaching those families. And if they go in and they see that a child is struggling or maybe not quite where they need to be, that they're making those referrals to us so that we can get out there and determine if they're eligible for us and provide services if they are.
So it sounds like, for instance, if the Division of Family Services receives a hotline call, they go out, they see that a child may be somewhat delayed, they should be making the referral to Missouri First Steps, so that way you can kind of then begin your process, correct?
Yes, they're actually mandated to make those referrals to us. If they go in and visit with a family under the age of 3 and there's a preponderance of evidence with that family, then they are required to make a referral to our program.
And we talked about it earlier, and of course I have a short memory, that's why I have to write everything on this pad. You indicated there's 3 reasons why you would qualify for Missouri First Steps, is that correct?
Yes.
And those 3 reasons, again, just for those listening, are?
Extreme birth weight. So there's very, very small preemie infants that weigh less than 1,500 grams. That's about 3 pounds, 14 ounces.
I do like the fact that you're using 1,500 grams since we're all on the metric scale here in the United States. I like that.
For those of you who don't maybe know metrics, that's 3 pounds, 14 ounces.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask somebody afterwards. I'm like, I have no idea what 1,500 grams is.
I wouldn't know that either unless I have a cheat sheet.
We use the converter on Google quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
And I interrupt you. I apologize.
No,
So
you're fine.
it's underweight, and a lot of those underweight can be a result of multiple births, preemies, things of that nature, obviously.
Yes.
And so I interrupt you. That's one. The second one?
The second one, with that premature infant, the birth weight, they have to meet one of the 3 concurrences with that, and that is either a brain bleed, a resuscitation, or a code event, or they have to be on breast support, which a lot of those very small babies are. They have some sort of, whether it's a ventilator or a CPAP for over 24 hours, then those would automatically come in.
And we're almost segueing into like a medical show at this point, but a lot of those is because the premature babies, they have a lot of issues with their lung development. Is that correct?
Their lungs aren't quite developed, so they need that extra breath support to help them breathe.
And I cut you off again. I apologize.
You're fine. The second way is through a diagnosed condition. So these are diagnoses that are related with a developmental delay. So those would be things like chromosomal abnormalities. Those would be things like Down syndrome. There's a whole variety of different chromosomal abnormalities that are related to developmental delay. Those would be things like sensory impairment, vision impairment, hearing impairment.
And again, apologize for me asking these questions because I don't understand exactly. If you're from 0 to 3, how exactly can you have a diagnosis at that age for a child to know whether there's vision issues, hearing issues, or sensory issues, things of that nature?
So hearing comes to us, I want to say, pretty easily because every infant in the state of Missouri is screened for hearing loss at birth. They do what they call a newborn hearing screening in the hospital. And if those children either are referred at that point or they come back for a retest to make sure. So Missouri's gotten a lot better in identifying those children with hearing impairments. Vision impairments, I would say a lot of those are diagnosed at birth. They may come later, of course, just because, sometimes it's not caught. But a lot of those things come because the child was born with some sort of indicator at birth that signifies to the doctor that we need to do some further testing.
And then obviously, again, we're welcome to Luke with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director of the Missouri First Step program for Southeast Missouri region, and Rachel Murdoch, soon to be Rachel Dykes, from Missouri First Steps, who's going to be our service coordinator. She talks a little bit about, we're talking a little bit about what qualifies. And my next question is, obviously, if there's a chromosomal or other diagnosis, my understanding is when children are first born, there's a blood test that's taken. Is that correct? And that kind of lays out the issues, if there are any issues, correct?
It can, yes.
So it sounds like, is Missouri, in your opinion, and again, I'm asking you hypotheticals, is Missouri doing a good job of trying to catch these initial issues by doing the hearing tests and the blood tests and things of that nature?
I think so, and I think just because of our increase in numbers and our increase in referrals, it kind of shows that.
And I cut you off again. I apologize. Now we're to the third.
Yes. So the third area is what we call developmental delay. So these are those kiddos that maybe don't have a diagnosis. They don't have a premature event that occurred at birth. That is when we're going to go down the track of developmental delay, where we will have one of our evaluators go out and evaluate the child. We use a testing instrument called the Developmental Assessment for Young Children, the second edition, or the DACY-2. That test is going to look at where that child is functioning in 5 different areas. So we're going to look at their communication skills, we're going to look at their social skills, we're going to look at their adaptive skills, cognitive skills, and their motor skills. And in one of those areas of development, they have to show a half-age delay. So they're functioning at half of their age in one of those areas in order to qualify.
And you indicated that you have someone go out to administer that test. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that actually a service coordinator, or is that someone different?
That is not. So in Missouri, we think we have to have 2 eligibility sources in our program. So the service coordinator counts as one of those, and one of our evaluators, our providers, counts as the second. So all of our providers are contracted providers through our central finance office or through Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. So they go out. Rachel would call one of her providers to say, hey, I met with this family. I need a DACY done on this child to determine if they're eligible or not. They would go out, administer the evaluation, and then write up a report and send that back to us to help us determine if that child's eligible or not.
And again, I'm trying to follow along exactly. So the DACY-2 is given by an administrator. That's what I'm going to call it. Or a facility. Let's just
provider.
Provider.
Yes.
How do you become a provider to do that?
Sure. So our providers, we have what we call kind of an open enrollment. We do encourage you to reach out to our teaming coordinator to see the need. But they can go on the DESI website, look up providers to see kind of the criteria of being providers. We have a wide gamut of different types of providers that we have in Missouri First Steps. What we call our core providers would be special instructors. Kind of how I explain what that person is they're kind of like a special education teacher. They kind of focus and encompass all areas of development. So they go out and they help teach the family, how to help your child play with blocks or how to complete a puzzle, those types of things. The next one is physical therapy. Our physical therapists who go out and work on motor skills. The other is an occupational therapist. They work on fine motor skills, sensory concerns, possibly sometimes some eating concerns. And then we also have speech language pathologists.
And again, we're on Welcome to Luke with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, delving in a little bit of Missouri First Steps program with Kelly Ham, the director of Southeast Missouri region, and Rachel Murdoch, a service coordinator. If you're interested in their services, 0 to 3 for those children with, I'm going to say, delays from 0 to 3. If you think that your child or you know of a child that may need their services, call 573-243-3222 or get on their website, MissouriFirstSteps.com, of course, MissouriFirstSteps.com. Fill out a referral application, and then they will assist in any way they can. Rachel, tell me a little bit about this. If you have a child from the time they're 0 to 3, And then 3 to 4, I'm assuming they get ready for preschool, correct?
Correct.
Kind of how do you help bridge that gap from the time that you're there at 3 until they go to preschool? Do you end your services when they go to preschool, or how do we kind of make sure they're still getting the services they need?
Yeah, so at about around age 2.5, we ask the family if they want to make a referral to the local school district for early childhood special education services. The parents will indicate whether they do want to make that referral or they do not. Either way, we have to go out and get permission for that. If they do want to make that referral, we set up that meeting with the school district so they can screen for those services.
And I guess, Rachel, one thing a lot of people say, well, I don't want my child to have, I'm not, this is not what I think in any way. I don't want them to have a stigma of having some kind of diagnoses before they start school. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. There still is a stigma on special education in this country, and a lot of parents don't understand that. Say their kid has a speech delay, and they just want their kid to have speech language therapy. That is a division of special education services. So that doesn't mean your kid is functioning lower cognitively or any of that. But not there are those parents who have those concerns.
And I guess my question is, and obviously the whole purpose of Missouri First Steps is to let people know, hey, we're catching this early in an attempt that, they may have, I don't even know, a stutter, or they may have a problem with certain letters. Our goal is to catch it early and then eventually get it to where it's manageable, corrected, or even solved. Is that correct?
Correct. And let's say your child does qualify for early childhood special education services, they can get a full year of services prior to starting preschool. They get a little extra that the other kids are not getting.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Rachel Murdoch and Kelly Ham from Missouri First Steps program. For the Southeast Missouri region, they serve 19 counties. They have 19 service coordinators. If you're interested in their services, please reach out 573-243-3222 or the website www.missourifirststeps.com. And Kelly, the one thing I would say is if you have an opportunity to take advantage of these services, why would you not take advantage of them?
I don't know. The whole goal and purpose of early intervention is to help catch these kiddos early, to help provide the support that those families need so that they don't need those services in school. Our goal is for them to go straight into the kindergarten classroom and not need those extra supports. Now, if they do, that's okay, but hopefully at that point they don't need as many as they would have had they not had gotten the early intervention.
And me always kind of delving into interesting statistics. I'm assuming Missouri First Steps, do you keep statistics of the number of children that you work with from 0 to 3 who you give them services, you give them what they need, and then when they go into preschool or, like you say, kindergarten, they're no longer requiring those services?
I know we do. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I know that probably you could look at the DESE website under Missouri First Steps and see how many of our kids transition into early childhood special education. I would say in the last several years, we've actually seen an uptick in the amount of kids who are not qualifying for early childhood special education once they age out of our program at 3. So I don't know off the top of my head what that looks like for kindergarten, but I know just in the last couple of years, I've seen not as many kids qualify for the school district's early childhood special education programs.
And again, I might be asking you a loaded question, and I apologize, and you totally ignore it if you want to. There's been a lot of changes in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We have a new director, Carla Esslinger, who's come in, who was a former state senator, making a lot of changes in the way that it's handled things of DESE. Has there been any discussion or any talk about changing anything involving the First Step programs that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's outstanding. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director for the Missouri First Steps program for the Southeast Missouri region, serves 19 counties, and also Rachel Murdoch, who has approximately, how many kids do you have now in your?
44.
44.
Yeah.
And Rachel, I'm going to put you under this loaded question. What do you think is the number that probably, if you had your ideal, that you would say is a caseload that's appropriate or your wish list? I know, if you're a teacher, teachers say, hey, I'd like to have about 15. I would like to have this. And I understand that 44, I don't think that's too many or not enough. I'm just asking you, where do you think the number should be?
I think 35 to 50 is about appropriate. depending on how you manage your time, you can do less, you can do more. 35 to 50 in a classroom would be terrible, but when you're not doing the lesson planning part of it and you're just coordinating the paperwork, 50 is great.
I don't know if you know this, but I was an educator.
Yes, I do.
I taught 1 year at junior high science and elementary PE at Holcomb. I was educator of the year that year. So I'm very excited about that. That's not true. I don't think I was educator of the year, but I greatly enjoyed it. And like on days like today, there's nothing better than going outside and playing a nice game of kickball with fourth graders. That's one of the greatest experiences I've had when I was about 25, 26 years old. Those kids, it was an outstanding time. But again, we're welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Kelly Ham, the director of Missouri First Steps program, Southeast Missouri region, and Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator for Missouri First Steps. Kelly, is there a plan for the Southeast region to hire more service coordinators?
At this point, no. We are in the process of hiring another service coordinator in the Howell County region, just to fill a position that's vacant. So we are in that process. If anybody's interested, you can reach out to that phone number I gave you earlier and ask for me. But right now, our contract is 5 years time span. So we just started our second year back in July 1. So that plan carries us out through 5 years. So at this point, no. The 19 that we've got right now are covering the need. Before that, I would not say that we were. We had service coordinators that were carrying caseloads of upwards of 80. So having that boost in staff really kind of helped ease that number. So right now, we're doing great with the numbers that we've got. And I don't see an increase in staff at this point.
So it's my understanding if you're interested in becoming a service coordinator for Missouri First Steps program in Howell County, you can reach out 573-243-3222. You can ask for Kelly Ham. She'll send you a resume and an application. Then you'll be thoroughly vetted, and we'll determine whether or not you can hopefully help these kids, the most vulnerable kids in all of Missouri, 0 to 3 years, to try to make sure that they're successful and reach their potential. Isn't that the goal of Missouri First Steps, Kelly?
Absolutely. And I will say, too, our providers are open to enroll at any point as long as there's a need. So if we have any of the providers, whether you're a special instructor, physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech language pathologist, we even sometimes have needs for dietitians, social workers, translators, interpreters. Reach out. See what the need is, see if you can help us in this region, if that's something that you're interested in doing, and we can help you through that process too.
And I could also call that number and also get on the website. Is that correct, if I'm interested in becoming a provider?
Yes.
And again, that number is 573-243-3222. The website's www.missourifirststeps.com. We got about 5 minutes left. We're kind of winding down. And Rachel, I guess, is there any kind of story or situation in which, you can tell the listeners, this is the reason why I do this job?
Just to see the progress the kids make. I love it. I've seen a lot of progress in my families over the years. Watching them from when you get them really early, from like day one, that year mark, watching all that progress is just fabulous. It makes it all worthwhile.
And I'm assuming, Kelly, you've been doing this for a while. So if you've been doing it for 18 years, are there sometimes there's kids who may be graduating or getting ready to graduate and say, I just want to thank you so much for what you've done. You've helped me immensely. And those are the kind of things that, how do you say it? Even as a youth coach or something like that, when those kids who you had when they're, young age say, hey, I remember you. I can't thank you enough. And I'm assuming a lot of families stay in touch even after they no longer need the Missouri First Step services, correct?
We do. We have some that do. I know, just same question you asked Rachel. I can give a great example
Sure.
of this. I've had a family that came in. I met with them when their child was just a few weeks old, and their child was diagnosed with a hearing impairment right out of the hospital. The parents were devastated. They were very upset about it. So, being there, meeting with them, explaining to them it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to go through the process. And now that child is doing so great. Doing amazing. And, the mom even still to this day tells me, just seeing you and knowing that you were there, explained it, you told me everything was going to be okay and that we were going to be in this position in a couple of years. Just it makes it all worth it.
And again, we're on Welcome to Duke with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Talking to Kelly Ham, the director of Missouri First Steps program for the Southeast Missouri region. 10 regions in the state of Missouri. We're in Region 10. We serve 19 counties with 19 service coordinators. We're also joined by Rachel Murdoch, who's one of the 19 service coordinators. We serve about 619 kids in the area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We also, if you're interested in becoming a provider or someone who can meet the services needs of Missouri First Step, or you're interested in that Howe County position, 573-243-3222, or you can reach out on www.missourifirststeps.com. I think it's one of those situations, Rachel, you taught for a long time, and I think you truly loved it.
Yeah.
Is this almost a situation in which a change was good, and it's almost like I taught those many years in special ed for a reason, and now I'm excited about where I am today?
Very excited, and I still keep in touch with several of my families who I taught over the years through social media and text and calls. But it all prepared me for this moment to help families of young kiddos.
And as we're winding down, Kelly, I'm going to leave you with the last word. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us knowing about Missouri First Steps program that we haven't talked about that you really want the listeners to know about today?
If you're ever in doubt, you don't know whether you should make a referral or not, you don't know whether you should reach out, give us a call. We'll talk you through the process. Any of the service coordinators in our region, any of our office staff would be glad to help you walk through that, kind of talk it out, figure out if we do need to make a referral or not. Parents as Teachers or parent education programs through the local school districts are another great resource. Like I said, they do screenings that are free. They'll come out, they'll look at your child, they'll do a screening, and if they show concerns on that, then they're going to help you facilitate that referral as well. So.
And again, we're with Kelly Ham, the director of the Missouri First Steps program of Southeast Missouri, serving 19 counties, and Rachel Murdoch, the service coordinator for Missouri First Step. And we'd like to thank you guys for giving us about an hour of your day today for something that's very important in Southeast Missouri. And for kids 0 to 3, if you have any concerns whatsoever for your child, better be safe than sorry. Reach out to them at 573-243-3222 or get on their website, www.missourifirststeps.com. Make a referral. Extremely knowledgeable, extremely friendly. They'll come out caring, compassionate individuals who are wanting the best for your children. So don't think that you're going to do something that's going to hinder your child. It's only going to help them. So on behalf of Missouri First Steps with Kelly Ham, the director, and Rachel Murdoch of Missouri First Steps, I'd like to thank you for making us part of your day. And on behalf of my producer, Misty Hankins, and my executive producer, Evan Todd, I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you have a great afternoon and a better tomorrow.